All right, welcome to Security Guy Radio with Black Hat 2016. What's your name, sir?
My name's Andrew Avanessian.
What's the name of your company?
Avecto Limited.
Avecto, can you spell that for me?
Yeah, it's AVECTO.
And .com?
It's, .com, yeah.
Okay, and what do you guys do?
So we're an endpoint security company that enables organizations to get the balance right between security on one side and freedom on the other. Because what we often find is if security gets in the way of a user's ability to do the job, then it's going to be weakened.
They stop using it. Yeah,
they either don't use it, or they tone it down, and they tone it down to the point where they make compromises, and then threats get
It's
through.
a balancing act, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very much so.
So we
similar to physical security as well, right?
Well, it's very similar. I mean, when I turned on access control at Fox, where they hadn't had it for 50 years, I almost got my head cut off.
Yeah.
It took me about 4 months for people to adopt it as a corporate culture.
Yeah.
Right.
It's shifting culture is what you have to
But
do.
see,
to
in the IT stuff, I'm not getting why people aren't adopting security as the IT culture. It's weird.
Well, because
it's not an enabler. That's the problem. It gets in the way. Okay. So security needs to be an enablement for the end user, and they need to see it as their friend almost, and they don't. I think
Okay. How do you guys accomplish that?
Yeah. So if you look at all the threats that organizations are seeing day in, day out, a lot of the fundamentals of those threats haven't changed in the last 5 years, in the last 10 years.
Right.
They're just kind of recycled, rinse and repeat threats, and everyone goes on about advanced persistent threats and kind of next-gen detection and things like that. But actually, you get the basics right, the security foundations right, you can stop a lot of these threats getting in there in the first place. So we typically approach things by doing 3 core things, really. Mm-hmm. One, we make sure you've only got least privilege to the tools, technology, and the data that you need, and we enable organizations to get least privilege right. We then stop payloads from executing, so attackers' payloads from even running. If you don't know about something, you block it. But traditionally, that's been difficult to do, because how do I know whether something is good or bad? And we make that easy for organizations.
Well, what I say to people is, if you send me an email and I don't answer, call me.
Yeah.
And if I think it's suspicious, I just delete it. I don't even go.
So what we do with those is we sandbox those unknown emails and we run them in an environment that can't get access to your data, your crown jewels.
Oh, okay.
Because it's protected in the sandbox, right? But
yeah.
Before that, you're actually implementing just controls to take your threat landscape from here to here.
So
right?
imagine you walk into an organization, we'd see this day in, day out. Everybody's got admin rights to their machine, so they can store what they want, they can do what they want, they can render that machine useless. And if a piece of malware gets on there, so can a piece of malware. So the first thing we do is take admin rights off everyone to those machines. And you mitigate 85% of the security vulnerabilities in Windows doing that. So you've massively...
85%?
Just by limiting the capabilities of the individual users.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what happens is they can't do their job then. And then they push back on IT, then they push back on the CISO, and then it's weakened, and we stop that happening. So you've got a great user experience, but with a security foundation.
Interesting. So what's the biggest takeaway that you're trying to accomplish here at Black Hat that people are going to learn about your organization? What makes y'all different?
Prevention's possible. We reduce the attack surface of the endpoint.
Okay.
We're not bothered about detection. We're not trying to find out whether something's good or bad. We're going to reduce the attack surface and protect you from those bad payloads in email attachments like you mentioned there, or you surf a website you don't know. We're going to protect you by default. We're not trying to detect whether a piece of code is good or bad. We're going to protect you by default. We're going to sandbox that code.
It is a simple concept.
Yeah,
it is,
and it's kind of a basic physical security model as well.
Yeah.
The first answer in any access control should be no.
Yeah.
I want to come in. Nope.
Yeah.
But how they wind up happening is the first answer is yes. I have a card. Yes.
Yeah.
And I always thought, I don't care if I have a card. I'm still saying no, until I figure out something else to make sure you're good. So it makes a lot of sense.
Well, it's like you said, everybody has implemented. 5-10 years ago, everybody was worried about just being hacked in general, putting in all the hardware controls, and now it's getting into that next level.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is that there's so much effort into trying to figure out the next step of these hackers. Why don't you just limit their capabilities
and
in your organization, right?
If you look at an attack chain, first thing a hacker's going to try and do is execute a payload. If it can't execute a payload, it can't execute its attack. If it can execute the payload, then it's going to try and bed deep into the system by leveraging privileges that the user's got.
Right.
And then it's
moving around vertically, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So then the other thing that you need to think about as well is fileless malware. Trusted applications. So everyone trusts Office, everyone trusts IE, everyone trusts PowerShell and things like that.
Yeah.
We're finding ransomware now exploiting those known applications.
Oh, interesting.
So, if you execute a payload with a PowerShell script, well, if you're an AV vendor, PowerShell's a trusted Microsoft application, so you're not going to pick that up, but you might end up where your data's been encrypted and then the bad guys are selling it back to you. Whereas what we do is protect trusted applications as well by running them in that sandboxed isolation.
Oh, interesting.
Ransomware.
Where did guy talk? Were you in the show? Were you talking about the No, you weren't here. The macros are coming back.
No, I wasn't in
no,
that.
that's
I
true,
wasn't in
absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
The Melissa type
Yeah.
virus is kind
Yeah,
of a bad
yeah,
deal.
really.
Like, wow,
Yeah, the
this
macro
is
virus
easier.
was a bit of a 90s
Everybody
thing,
forgot
but
about
it's
it.
coming
It's
back
just
now.
it's
Yeah.
just cycling in. So let's talk about malware a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned it. There's a lot of differing opinions on it, but
Yeah.
one thing is consistent is that it's the number one attack that's getting used out there. How are you guys
Right.
attacking that? How
Yeah.
are you preventing?
So if you go around this centre to the business hall today,
Sure.
you'll see lots of the same messages. It'll all be about next-gen detection or detecting indicators of compromise.
Sure.
The key thing is you're always going to be 2, 3, 4 steps behind the bad guys.
Right.
Because you don't know what they're going to try and do next.
And if you try to do it, they're going to figure out something new anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's-
And they're testing their payloads against your kit, your
Okay.
AV solution, your next-gen whatever it is.
Right.
And then you see all these vendors with, we detect 99% of threats and things. Well, McAfee see 470,000 threats a day. 1% of that is nearly 5,000. It only takes one threat to cause a massive breach.
Right.
So what we're saying is you take privileges away from people so they can only have minimum privileges to their machines, but then through our technology we right-size the roles and needs for that user so they can install what they need to, they can run what they need to, then we block unknown payloads. So if you don't know about it, we're going to block it from coming in, just like you saying the default's no.
Yeah, sure.
And then trusted apps like Office, like IE, like PowerPoint, whatever it is,
Yeah.
we're going to run those in an isolated environment. So if something does
Sandbox.
exploit a macro, for example, it's going to be
contained.
it's contained,
Yeah.
and it can't get access to your data.
Because you also put in the controls. Right?
Yeah,
See, to me, this is a common sense approach.
yeah,
There's an IT component of the technology's there, but the core thought is common sense.
Yeah.
Just limit your
Yeah.
Yeah.
limit your. It's like if you're facing the bad guy, just limit yourself like turning a little
Well,
bit. I mean, that's
and
what we're
it's
really
getting
doing
the foundations right. And
I
that's
mean,
what we're all about.
changing
yeah.
the
If
landscape.
anybody thinks that their email is the end-all communication device, and I have to get all my email because what if I miss something?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then you're an idiot.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
Because it's only one form of communication, and you can verify it some other way. So
Someone said to me, they said, Andy, we're not interested necessarily protecting against bad apples within my organisation. They want to protect against stupid apples.
I haven't heard that one before.
That's a good one.
The people that click on anything and
No,
then it
there's
just
about
explodes.
seven. So we heard in a briefing this week, about 22% of people that get phished or attacked,
Yeah.
they thought something was up. 17% of them said, "I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that I got
Yeah,
that I
exactly.
clicked on
Yeah.
that ransomware or
Yeah.
that phishing email."
Yeah.
It's just there's that small percentage of people
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
just it's the stupid apples, right?
And we want people to have a frictionless user experience that just works for them. They don't know we're in the way.
right.
Because it's completely seamless to
But that's a
them.
dance, right? If you implement too much controls, they're going to give you feedback. So it's a constant moving.
Well,
right? It's a
that's
moving target.
that's our kind of USP, really. That's our unique selling point. We kind of help organisations bridge that
Figure
gap
that out, yeah.
between those two polarised opposites of security on one side and freedom on the other. If you've got your endpoints are secure if you case them in a concrete box and throw them in the lake, but you can't use them.
Right.
And then if you allow
Sure.
people to do what they want, where they want, from anywhere, because the perimeter doesn't exist anymore. People work in Starbucks, people work in hotels.
There is no perimeter. That's
Yeah.
correct.
No, there's
So
not.
you can't
Yeah.
rely on network-based detection solutions anymore.
So you're
because
saying go straight to the user
so
end.
so that's where the bad guys are trying to get to,
Right.
which is the endpoint. That's where your data's accessed from. That's where the stupid apples are that can be
Right.
duped into clicking something.
It's actually
So
really
you-
interesting. I mean, you're looking at defense in a lot more manageable manner.
Yeah.
Just more of a defense.
It's different than what we've heard so
Yeah.
far.
Yeah, and this is what, number 50,
53.
53.
So 53 shows.
In three
Prevention is
days.
possible without getting in the way of someone's ability
Yeah.
to do the job, and that is it really.
That's great.
Where are you from?
I'm from the UK.
So if I say brilliant, you know what that means.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't mean the
Absolutely.
same to Americans, but it is
Right,
brilliant, I
okay,
think.
yeah.
Very simple. So
Right.
Andrew, thanks
Yeah.
for coming on.
Thanks for
Security
your time,
Guy
guys.
Radio.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
Thank you.
Anytime you have an update, want to do a 60-minute show, just let us know. We'll get
Yeah,
you on. We
will
can
do.
Skype it from the UK.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, my friend. Thank you very
thanks
much.
so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.